Welcome everybody, my name's Scott Hebbard. I'm the Communications Manager here at Sparx Systems, and I'm very pleased for you to join us for the Enterprise Architect 16 webinar series from Sparx Systems. The webinar that we're looking at today is entitled Microsoft Office Integration and the SysML Requirements Editor in Enterprise Architect 16, and I'm very pleased that so many people could join us for this topic. I'm joined by Nizam, and Nizam has over 16 years experience with Sparx Systems products, including Enterprise Architect, Pro Collaborate, Pro Cloud Server. Nizam's the founder and CEO of Sixforce Solutions. He has extensive experience as an architecture consultant and implementation specialist across different verticals and different countries, including the US, Sweden, Germany, Dubai, Qatar, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, and India. So I'd like to welcome Nizam for joining us today, looking at Office Integration and SysML Requirements Editor. So the agenda, I'm going to briefly talk about how to submit questions. I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Excel SysML Requirements Editor, look at an Office integration and demonstration, and we'll finish up with Q&A with the audience at the end. Please note that audio is muted for all participants. You'll be able to type questions to the host, and a few of you have already been able to do that so far using the chat feature. And if we can't answer all the questions live, we'll follow up offline. Simply use the chat feature, enter the question, hit send, and send it through to myself, the host, and we'll respond to those during our session. But right now, I'd like to hand over to Nizam, who's going to present on Microsoft Office Integration and SysML Requirements Editor in Enterprise Architect 16, and I can see your screen. So welcome, Nizam, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this session. This is Nizam, and in this session, we will be looking at how the MS Office integration of Enterprise Architect could help us leverage some of the existing assets like Excels and Visios and Words and house them as model information to build a baseline architecture and also to be able to maintain it on a regular basis. And we'll also be looking at some of the enhancements that has gone in EA16 to enable easy and dynamic document generation. So both of these features that I'm going to talk about have been in EA for a while, but there's been an extensive focus in EA16 and there's a lot of improvements that's been happening. So we'll be looking at it. And there's an interesting new feature that EA16 introduced that's called the SysML Requirements Editor. That's specifically to target people or teams who work with SysML and do the systems engineering to be able to have an Excel to be able to edit requirements and create derivations and relationships and see how that kind of reflects in EA almost seamlessly. So that's the agenda for today's session. I'm Nizam. I've been with Sparx Systems for a while now and been playing different roles as a consultant, as a trainer, as a developer, and multiple roles, and I have a very good understanding of EA and its suite of products. And so the Sparx architecture platform as it stands today is a combination of a number of tools. So what once used to be a standalone modeling tool has evolved itself to be a more architecture platform where there is a tool which is specializing in modeling. Like that's still the tool of choice for various modeling standards, but then it has also expanded itself as a integration layer, which serves to take the data from different source systems like ServiceNows and Jira's and help us give a connected view across enterprise. And we also have Collaborate, which is more a web-based sharing, collaboration, reporting, and publishing platform. So Sparx architecture platform is a more comprehensive tool set as it stands today that caters to different stakeholders in varying needs. And as I said, today's agenda, we are primarily going to focus on the MS Office integration, and that too specifically on Excel spreadsheets and how an Excel spreadsheet could serve as a really good tool to build a baseline repository. And then we'll be looking at the SysML requirements engineering. And then we'll be looking at the custom dynamic document generation capability of EA16. So to start with this, I could just go ahead and show you how to import from Excel, but there is a bigger context behind this than just importing some arbitrary contents from Excel. We have been using this as a utility. When I say consultants and people who are using EA extensively to build model contents, have been using this for a while to build a baseline repository from all the dispersed business knowledge that floats around in an organization by importing those Excels into EA and in a way that conforms to a standard meta model with the right type of stereotypes and tagged values, so that it is almost ready to be used for subsequent analysis and due diligence. And we all know, Excels and Visios and Words are really good tools to document information, but we also acknowledge that there is a problem. Like, with all the conventional ways of documenting, things are good for the time it's documented, but in a while it kind of becomes obsolete, and the business knowledge or the real insights that is expected from all the valuable data that is captured in Excels and Visios just dwindles down. It doesn't get really used in the way it is supposed to be, and that causes a lot of rework and also doesn't give the insights or due diligence capabilities to the stakeholders to be able to take decisions based on it. So I think most of us sort of acknowledge that there is a problem, and a solution for this, as most of us would recommend, is to have a central repository where we have the entire business knowledge documented in a consolidated manner that includes requirements and business processes and architecture, the enterprise architecture, the solution architectures, and also to be able to link with external tools, for example, ServiceNow, to get all the configurations and to be able to map them to an application or a business service. So having a consolidated view is the end goal and objective. And there is a transition to go from where most teams are, like that is the Excels and Words, to a central repository. And the Excel import has always proven to be one incredibly useful tool to facilitate this. And also, just another point to highlight before going to the actual import steps or how to use the MS Office integration is most of the teams who start with Enterprise Architect are aware of this, but there are a few people who just take Enterprise Architect and start using it in a project straight away. The flexibility and the ease to use makes it possible, but for effective use of an architecture tool, we really need to go through a simple process. I've just documented the process that we have ironed out based on repeated a number of projects and experience in the so many years of working with Enterprise Architect. So the first three steps is really important, which is firstly understanding what are you trying to achieve. Like, importing in Excel is just model harvesting, and as you could see, I'm just placing that as the fourth step in the bigger picture. The first three steps are really critical or important to make it really effective for an architecture practice to be established, and that is understanding the requirements and use cases that you're trying to cater to. So EA supports almost hundreds of standards and modeling notations, everything ranging from UMLs to SysMLs to BPMN, Archimate, TOGAF, DODAF, you name it, it will be supported in it. But are you going to use the entire raft of frameworks to do something in the immediate future? It's most likely no. And what most teams will want is a simple meta model that will help them answer some key use cases or business queries. And that analysis is really important to be able to establish a good practice and also configure EA in such a way that all the other items are hidden which kind of eliminates all the noise. So these three steps, most of us would already know, but I would just like to reiterate that these three steps are kind of important before getting into anything related to modeling or model harvesting. So with this said, again, another thing to emphasize is, like, I could just take TOGAF or Archimate and try to implement it, but Archimate and TOGAF are really comprehensive, and it's extremely unlikely for any team to go fully on board and just get everything in Archimate modeled in one go. Rather, what Enterprise Architect will help us do is to take a small slice of an Archimate meta model, for example, and identify the items that you want to model in each of the layers, identify the connectors between them, and come up with a simple meta model that you could focus and work on, and then later on, extend it and expand it as the teams mature. So this is just an example meta model that we use as a starter kit. And in this, you could see I've just got a few layers, like business application information technology layers, and a few artifacts that are connected in a specific way. Like, I'm emphasizing all this because these are the places where people miss out. Like, an Archimate could suggest 4 different connectors between a business service and an application component, but which ones are you going to zero in on? Which ones are you going to finalize on is really important to make it very clear, because only with that kind of a consistency and standardized approach, you'll be able to have a governed model that will help with all the objectives from an architecture repository. So having said that, this is the meta model that I have kind of finalized for an example that I'm going to import into. So before getting into anything like importing or modeling, we need to understand what are we going to create, because there is a lot of information contained in this, and anyone who has some experience with Enterprise Architect will be able to relate to it, or you may need someone who could guide you in this process to get you to this state. And this thought process is just done once, and once it's finalized, it kind of helps us lower the learning curve for the wider teams, and it makes it really easy to onboard a larger team to work on this. And at this stage is where you have to go to the means of using an Excel or other sources to import data, or even give your stakeholders an Excel spreadsheet that conforms to this meta model, so that they could populate the Excel and you could just import it from there and use it in your bigger model. So arriving at a comfortable place like this, where you know what you're going to model, you know what are the types that you're going to use to create your model, what are the connectors you're going to use to link between these artifacts, is really important before you go into anything like harvesting an existing source. So now that I'm here, I know what each of these artifacts are, what are the types, what are the stereotypes, what are the attributes or properties associated with each. So an application could have IT unit, lifecycle, production status, sunset date. So there could be metadata associated with it. A server will have a range of metadata associated with it. And this meta model kind of summarizes all those and offers to the team in a really simple tool set and eliminates everything else. So at this state, if you start with an Excel spreadsheet, if you have an existing inventory of applications and roles and services, that's excellent. You could just start importing it, or you could even prepare a template and pass it on to the wider team and ask them to populate information in a simple Excel spreadsheet, so they don't have to get into the nuances of an enterprise architecture or a systems engineering model per se. They just have to understand a simple Excel spreadsheet and give the data to us in this format. And from here, we'll be able to build a model or continue to evolve a model based on these Excel spreadsheets. So that's the idea. And with that said, this is the sample spreadsheet I'm going to use and show you how I kind of import this into EA as a baseline. And here, this spreadsheet has roles, functions, services, information objects, data entities, project, server, location, and applications. And that is just as per this meta model. And what I also have in this Excel is, for each of these data entries. For example, I have an application, I would have the key metadata that I would like to capture with it, and I will also have what are the business services that it's connected to, what are the functions that it's connected to, what are the projects that it's connected to, information objects that it's connected to. So in a simple spreadsheet, I'm able to get this information from the respective teams, and that will be eventually translated into respective connectors and artifacts in EA. So that's the context of what I'm going to demonstrate now. So with that said, what we have also enabled in this example that I'm going to show is I have converted this meta model into in EA what we call as an MDG. An MDG just allows us to define a toolbox that specifically implements this meta model and eliminates everything else. So the only thing that my team has to be trained on will be this toolbox, and it will just give them the exact diagram types and the connectors and stereotypes that they have to use by just dragging and dropping. So I've got one of those added to my model as well. That's why you will see certain colors and look and feel in a certain way. That's because it's standardized and governed by this profile. So that's the context. And now we'll see how to import this Excel that I showed to you. And there are three important steps in an import from Excel, and it's the same for Word as well. I'm not going to go deep into Word, but the same concept can be applied to a Word import as well. So the three steps to import from Excel are: firstly, you need to have a profile to interpret your Excel worksheet. So EA is just a machine. It's a tool, and you need to tell what are the columns in your Excel supposed to be interpreted as. So in my spreadsheet here, I've got a table with a couple of columns. There is a name, there's a notes, and then there is security classification, business service, projects, so on and so forth. I need to tell the importer what each of these means. For example, this is the name of the artifact that I'm going to create. These are the tagged values, if you know what I'm talking about. So tagged values are the custom metadata that we populate in Enterprise Architect. So these are all the additional attributes that has to be captured on this artifact, and there are connectors. So I want EA to understand this as a connection between an application and a business service. So there's a lot of data in this Excel that the person who designed this template would know. So to make the tool aware of it, you need to define a profile once. And once you define a profile, you could reuse the same profile and apply it on any number of times on an Excel that matches the profile. So that's step one. And while defining the profile, you need to pay particular attention to defining what is the type or the stereotype that you want these objects to be created as, and how are the properties mapped. So I need to say, this is a tagged value, whereas this is EA metadata, like description, notes. So I need to map this to the EA metadata once, and then use the profile to import your worksheets any number of times. So steps to define a profile. Firstly, we need a document or a template that will say, specify the columns in your spreadsheet. And once you have a template like that, the first step is to tell EA what is it supposed to be imported as. There is an option. If you are dealing with a slightly tech savvy people, you could have the type and stereotype information in the spreadsheet itself and map those columns while importing. But this is applicable only if the audience who is going to fill the Excel spreadsheet is also aware of EA. So I wouldn't go for that option now. But you as a modeler, as a EA person, you could define what it is going to be mapped as. And in the second screen, what you'll see is the columns shown over here. And what you could do, each of these will be a drop down to let you choose how it is going to be mapped to a EA metadata. So here I could say the name is mapped as name, notes is mapped as notes, and for everything else it's a tag value. So I could create tagged values manually one by one and add them, or there is a quick auto fill values option. If I click that, everything will be automatically mapped or populated as tagged values. The names of the tagged values that will be created in EA can be just mapped using the autofill values. That's just a quick tip. And once that's done, there's also in this spreadsheet that I showed, there are a couple of columns, business services and projects and information objects, that we're mapping as connectors. So I could say which columns are all indicating connectors and say these are connectors. And you may wonder, okay, I'm just saying this is a connector. How do I specify what the connector really means? Once you specify a column is a connector, then you click on the connect configuration utility, and that will open a separate window which will let you define what each of these connectors have to be mapped as. Like, the connector between a business service and an application is an association, and you're going to connect based on name or ID. So there are a couple of options that will let you define what you're going to, how you're going to import those connectors as. So far what we have done is we have defined a profile in which we have said how are the properties or the columns going to be mapped, and we have also said how the connectors are going to be mapped. So once that is done, then we go about importing those profiles. So with that said, what I'm going to quickly do is to switch to my enterprise architect. So what I have done in this model is I have imported some of these spreadsheets or worksheets already. I've got my roles, services, information objects, data entities, and you could see there are interconnections in these spreadsheets, and they have been imported into EA already. So I've got data entities that are owned by information objects. I've got locations connected to servers. I've got services connected to roles. So I've got bits and pieces of my Excel spreadsheet already imported. A key layer that glues everything together is the application spreadsheet, and I haven't imported it yet, and I'm just going to do that right now. So to import a spreadsheet into EA in an existing repository, so you could see that I've got functions, roles, services, information objects, data entities, and everything lined up here from the same spreadsheet. And I'm just going to use what we call the Microsoft Office integration. And this is part of an Enterprise Architect Ultimate Edition. Or if you're using a corporate or any other editions, this can be availed as an add-on, but it's a standard offering coming from Sparx Systems. And what you have to say is, I'm going to import from an Excel document, and I'm going to choose the document that I'm going to import. Let me just close this. So I'm going to choose the enterprise apps for import, and then it will quickly show me the list of worksheets in that. And then I'm going to just give it a name to say I want to import it under a package called applications, and then I'm going to choose a profile. So these are the predefined, these are the profiles I have defined previously. So the steps are pretty much the same as I showed you, like 3 steps. Choose the sample document, choose the type, then map the properties and connectors. So I've just done those for these spreadsheets, and I'm going to choose one of those templates. There are some additional options like enable synchronization. So if I enable synchronization, you could use the same spreadsheet to update the same model information and resync later. And if you add new entries to that spreadsheet, those will be created as new objects as well. So it makes it easier if you intend to maintain the same spreadsheet. And then there are other fine options like configure hierarchy. So if you have child elements to be created, there are things that you could do while importing, but I'm going to skip all those. And the next thing I want to do is preview. So once I preview, it kind of goes through my spreadsheet, applies this profile, and it shows me this is how it's going to be imported. So there's a component, and then these are the attributes that are going to be created for these components. So it kind of matches my expectation. So I'm going to go import. And the next step, what it says is, hey, there's going to be a number of connectors that we intend to create. And what it asks the user to choose is, are there any packages in this big fat repository that I need to look for to create these connectors? By default, it will try to look for connectors in the same spreadsheet. But in our case, there are existing model information that's already here. So I'm just going to say, look for contents in this enterprise catalog and try to import. So there are roles and services and servers and everything else that the application is looking for already available here. So I'm just going to say, look at all these packages. You might wonder, why don't I just go and say the entire model? The models are usually large, and it could go in hundreds of thousands of artifacts. And if you know where those objects are, it's better to map them rather than just letting the importer look for things across the entire repository. It's easier to choose the packages. So I'm just selecting which packages I want the importer to look for, and then it goes and imports. So I'm just going to import the components, and it's not just importing the components, it's adding the metadata to it, and it's also trying to create the connectors based on the spreadsheet. So it has, for each of the entries in the spreadsheet, it's trying to map to its services, its servers, its information object, its functions, projects, so on and so forth. So what it has done is it has just imported the applications over here. So just to show you what has been imported, I'm going to just add these applications to a diagram. And this shape and color is coming from the toolbox that I have zeroed in on based on the meta model. So there is just one toolbox, as I said, which has BAIT layers as per my meta model. And if I drag and drop an application from this toolbox, it will be in a certain color and it will have certain tagged values in it. And that's the type I am using to import my Excel contents. That's why the color is specifically as per my expectation. And let me just lay this out very quickly. So I've got an application import, and then what you will see in this application import is, let me just apply a few legends just to show you that all the metadata as per my expectation is also imported. So these are legends, as you know, it's just based on the tagged values that I expect to import. I've got these analysis tools, so each of these applications will have a standard set of metadata that has also been imported from the Excel spreadsheet. And moreover, I can even go to this diagram and now look at the business service and look at its traceability. So I could see the CRM system is connected to this business service, but it's not just connected to the business service, it's connected to the information object, to the server, to the project, and whatnot. So it's just building a model from a simple Excel spreadsheet, but in a way that conforms to my meta model as well. So that's the added consideration that I would like to emphasize. I'm not importing an ad hoc arbitrary spreadsheet into my model. I know what it's going to be imported as. I can define what are the connectors that needs to be created so that it aligns with my bigger picture. So I could do the same. I could just say, okay, business service, drag and drop. I know the infrastructure that's connected to it, the project that is impacting it. So it's pretty much conformant to my meta model, and it's helping me build my bigger picture. So that kind of just showed how I chose a simple spreadsheet. So there is nothing EA specific in this. So this is a spreadsheet, and for a number of our consulting assignments, I've just given this spreadsheet as a starter pack. This is not exhaustive. This may not satisfy every need of the users, but this is just to give an example of what kind of thought process could be applied while defining a simple spreadsheet template and capture all the information and convert it into a EA model. And there's no set format. You could just let them populate it in any column names and any way that they prefer. The only requirement is one row per data. That's all that's required. If you are looking at some fancy merged rows and merged columns, that's not something that the importer can understand. So it's very simple. It's not a hard and fast template of any sort. So just summarizing the steps I did for importing it. So I've just got, I chose the profile that I have to use to import. Then I chose the actual template or the predefined profile that I have to use. I chose the document, the workbook, and then the actual profile. And then I chose the actual connector packages that I have to look out for to create connectors, and that is it. With these 3 steps, I was able to import the whole applications from the spreadsheet, and also create the connectors and tagged values that kind of meets my expectation. And just to summarize what we have done, a model created in this way based on a conformant meta model will immediately enable us to do a number of analysis and slicing and dicing based on the model information. So you could have relationship matrices, you could have heat maps, you could have documentation templates that works off the imported model. So there is a number of things that you could do, and this is just excerpts of what you saw just now. So you have a enterprise catalog that was pretty much created from a simple Excel spreadsheet. You have a fully connected model that goes across the layers. You have tagged values that highlights the the importance of the metadata to get some insights from it. And then the next step, if you take it further with Prolaborate, you'll be able to create some real-time dashboards and offer this to external stakeholders. You could have drill through charts, multi-level charts. So all these are enabled just by doing those 3 steps properly. Understanding what you want, defining a conformant meta model, and then importing the data from Excel in a conformant manner. So I just wanted to emphasize, whilst I wanted to show just how to import from Excel, I want to emphasize the importance of it. And we've been using this pretty much over and over in a number of engagements to build a model from scratch. So these are all just the benefits of doing something in an EA model. So that kind of summarizes the import from Excel option. And now, as we were doing that, we kind of encountered a number of systems engineering team who wanted to have an even more specialized offering to allow them to use Excel to capture SysML requirements, but with a specific focus on SysML, and that too very specifically to capture not only elements, but also the relationships between them, the derived requirements hierarchy between requirements. So Sparx Systems has come up with the SysML Requirements Editor as part of the Office integration suite as well, and that's what we're gonna look at now. So the key features of this is, unlike the previous Excel importer, which was generic, you could just let it do whatever you prefer. This is very much specific to SysML. There is a predefined template for the Excel in which you can capture requirements, and it will immediately allow you to model the relationships between them, and it will show you the derived requirements. So it's pretty much a very focused SysML view in an Excel, and that makes it a lot more easier to engage the systems engineering teams and the stakeholders who work with the systems engineering team to co-work with the EA modelers. So what you will see as a new addition in the Office integration is this SysML requirements on Excel. And in an Excel, you will see a new ribbon which will allow you to export from EA to Excel or Excel to EA. So this new ribbon gets added to your Office, and in EA's ribbon, you'll have a new utility added. So this is what you will see with the latest release of Office integration in EA 16. And what you'll see in a SysML Requirements Editor is a standard template in which you will see exactly SysML requirement format. So a name, a notes, a status version, ID, and text. So these are the standard properties that we would expect to be captured in a SysML requirement. And the items in gray are to show the users any connected requirements. So it immediately tells you if there is a connected requirement. And then there is a matrix that also comes with the template, which lets users create derived requirements just by clicking on the cells, the intercepting cells. So with Excel and these templates, you'll be able to, on a real-time basis, create a corresponding model in Enterprise Architect. So that's what the SysML editor is all about. And to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, so I could do two things. One is I could just take a package like this, and then from Enterprise Architect, I could say, convert this into an Excel. So it will immediately take the requirements in in a model. So this is specifically to require SysML requirements. I'm just re-emphasizing this. This doesn't apply to other requirements. This is specifically for systems engineering and SysML. So what it's trying to do is to convert this into an Excel spreadsheet. So I've just got my model converted into an Excel spreadsheet with all the requirements, its details, its ID, and the derived requirements. So what is a derived requirement? There's a derived connector between this requirement and this requirement that's reflected in two places. One, there's a matrix that kind of shows these are the derived requirements, and then there is a there's also this gray space, which is a non-editable item, but it shows you that the power requirement is connected to off-road capability, cargo capacity, and acceleration. So this is a real, like, actual reflection of what is in my EA model. And just to show you how we could start from scratch and do something like this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete all these contents, go to the Excel spreadsheet and just say, synchronize this, and it's saying, hey, there's nothing in the model, are you sure? And I'm just resetting this spreadsheet to to clear its contents. So I've got a empty spreadsheet, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to author a few requirements. So let's say regenerative braking fuel economy. So I'm just keying in a few requirements. So let's say range, and I've got fuel capacity, and then power, I've got acceleration, and then cargo capacity. So as I am keying in requirements, what you will notice is the relationship matrix or the requirement matrix gets updated almost instantly. So as I'm adding a new requirement here, the rows gets updated in this spreadsheet as well. So this is why it's different from the normal Excel importer. This is very much tuned for SysML, and as I'm working on this spreadsheet, the relationship matrix also gets updated. And what I'm going to do here is, so regenerative modeling kind of derives, so the braking and fuel economy are dependent on the regenerative braking. So I'm just going to click on these two to indicate there is a derived requirement here. And then range, I'm going to again connect it to the fuel economy and maybe to the fuel capacity as well. And then power, I'm going to just connect it to the acceleration and the cargo capacity. So I'm just saying this is how my interrelationships work. And then I come back to the main spreadsheet. You'll see that it immediately updates the derived columns as well. So it's telling you that this requirement is connected to these two. So there's a derived SysML requirements immediately shown in the Excel as well. Now, once I'm comfortable with this, I'm just going to say go from Excel to EA and export. So I'm just, it says synchronization complete. Come back to Enterprise Architect and just going to go reload. And you could see that the requirements have been created, and it's not just created, just as an element. So I've got this, and let me just lay this out as something that is sensible. So you could see that the derived requirement is also reflected instantly. So I was able to create a couple of requirements and its derivations just from an Excel. And let's say if I identify I have missed something, sorry, wrong click. So let me just create another requirement, and let's say it's the power source management, and I want to connect this power source management to fuel economy. So I'm just going to use a derived connector, save, go back to Excel, and then all I need to say is EA to Excel, and then you could see power source management added and the connector being added as well. So it's almost like a instant sync between these two. We could have made it without an external click, but we felt it's going to be a lot of you know to and fro if we say on every edit we go and update an EA model, and that won't give a proper revision history as well. So we made it on demand, so every time you click EA to Excel or Excel to EA, it kind of reflects one way or the other. So that's the requirements editor from EA16, and this is something that has been requested for a while, especially by systems engineering team, and that's also part of the Office integration in EA16. And the last thing we want to show is document generation is one of the utility that has been in EA since day one. Like there's, if someone is looking at enterprise architect, they mostly look at it for traceability, documentation, or collaboration. So these are the core use cases that is expected out of enterprise architect, and document generation has been there forever. But what has changed or what has improved in the newer versions, especially in EA16, is an ability to create dynamic documents just by dragging and dropping your model contents. So there's a lot of you could have a simple document done in a matter of minutes. We could set up a template in a minute, but the requirements of most of the teams are quite broad, and the complex requirements can be implemented in enterprise architect templates, but it will take a while, or it will take some effort. It's not impossible, but it will take some effort. And in EA16, what Sparx Systems has tried to do is to give enough examples and enough predefined templates which simplifies connections and tag values and lookups and scripts and fragments, and provide something that is ready to start for the users. So in terms of custom documents, this is new. It's been in EA15 as well, but this is something that most people aren't aware of. You could just drag and drop parts of your model in between an existing document and build your document. So we'll see a demo of how that works. But in EA16, what they have done is they have introduced a document templates profile. And this document templates profile is specifically to enable some quick start templates and document formats to let people get started with this documentation. So there are a number of highly relevant document templates. So these are, as an EA user, there will be different scenarios where you may want to document things. It could be from a package, it could be from a diagram, it could be from an element, it could be from a sequence diagram. So there are specific scenarios that has been well thought through, and they have come up with some predefined templates to cater to these scenarios. And that's not it. You could always take one of these templates and make them your own. So so in the past it's an empty template and you need to really start from scratch. But what they've done in EA16 is, if there are connected source elements, there's a fragment which already looks for the connected elements and will populate it there. You may just want to fine tune the type of it or the direction of it. So there are some simple changes that is enough to make it your own. And even a tag value. So there'll be a placeholder, for example, like this, and you could then go ahead and add your specific tag value. And these templates come with really easy to use steps on how to convert a template that is generic to something very specific to your organization. So these are all some of the focuses in EA16 that makes documentation a tad more easier for everyone to use in EA16. And these quick start document templates and document formats in EA16 is available through this document templates MDG. I'm just going to give you a very quick demo of that too. So I'm just going to go to my model and in sample documents. So to access this custom documents, you could go to the publish ribbon. And you may also notice I'm not having the full list of all the menus in my EA instance. And this is something that we strongly recommend: the perspectives, the workspaces. There's been a lot of focus on personalizing EA for the users and the use cases, and we strongly suggest you take a look at those as well. But now, just coming to publish, I just have to click a custom document. So I will say this is my project document, and I could have a predefined theme that I want to start with headers and footers and things like that. But what I'm going to do now is, I've got a big fat model here, and what I could do, I could just say, I can say just start with a diagram. So I'm just dragging and dropping a diagram and saying I want to print this diagram, and then following that, I'm just going to add a couple of requirements to my document. And these are all the predefined templates that I'm referring to. And I can also have my own templates that are extended from the predefined templates. So I'm going to use one of these predefined templates to publish my requirements. So I just dragged and dropped a couple of requirements, and you could see, it is using the predefined template, but it's just populating my own tagged values in it. So I got my requirements, and let's say I want to publish my use cases. I could either drag and drop individual use cases. So for example, I could just drag and drop a diagram and choose the simple diagram and notes. So there's just a diagram and notes template that could be used to publish a diagram, or I could just drag and drop the entire package as well, or I could drag and drop multiple elements or a single element. So it is really flexible and convenient. So you could just drag and drop what you intend, and that will populate based on the templates. There's been document templates in the past as well, but they were very generic. They were kind of populating everything from the EA model to the document. But what Sparx Systems has done recently is they have understood or tried to analyze some commonly used formats. For example, a use case in this document, you could see it's very specific. It has the actors associated with it, the description, the precondition, postcondition, and scenarios. So it's very specific to what you would expect from a use case model. So there's been a lot of research to understand what is expected in each of these models, and the templates have been put together accordingly. So just continuing on it, I could have a mix of static contents as well. So if I say high level design, I want to have some static content added in between. I could do that as well. And below the high level design, let me just add my components. So I'll just drag and drop these components and choose the component template. So the components, for example, takes care of the component name, the description, and the interfaces that are embedded to it. So embedded elements, connected elements, tagged values, these were all some of the tricky parts. If you remember, people who are aware of documentation in the past, these are some of the tricky parts. So these templates have tried to give a proper attempt to simplify those tricky parts and make it easy for users to just get started. So just following this, if I want to go for a low level design, and I'm just choosing format for it, and then in the low level design, I want to maybe add my class model. So instead of adding it one by one, I'm just going to drag and drop the package and choose class template, and it's going to be a lot of data because it's going to print the attributes and operations of a class. But you could see it's cleaner and it's more as a team would expect. So there's a class name followed by its description, followed by its attributes and operations. So it's not going to add a whole lot of noise or generic contents. It's very specific to a class model. And finally, let's say if you want to look at a diagram and how it's printed, like a specific diagram, in this case, a sequence diagram, I'm just going to choose the sequence diagram template, and that will understand it's a sequence diagram and render the messages in a table format rather than just printing it out as a normal diagram. A sequence diagram has its significance. It has a proper nodes, it has some parameters that it could have a sync type, and again, these templates have been carefully designed to meet the requirements of the users, but it could also be further customized as well. So lastly, I could just save the whole thing as a Word or a PDF. So it's a normal Word document, let's say, and I'm just going to go, this is my, so I've just saved the whole document as a Word document, and just trying to get it. Oops, did I save it right? Sorry, just trying to see if I saved it right. File, save as Word document. Okay, that should have done the trick. Okay, there it is. So the my project document is something that I just compiled from my model, and you could see it's a normal Word document with proper headers, headings, and heading levels set properly. So it's everything that we expect on a document, and rather than doing a manual work or going all out trying to do everything in an automated manner, this is a mix of both, and you could see how you can mix and match your model contents to prepare something that is almost like production quality. So that's another key highlight of EA16's custom documents. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show. I know we're almost time, but these three features have been there, especially the first two features have been there for a while, but has been less visible. So we just wanted to give an opportunity for users to know that there is a possibility and explore this further. So if you have an EA Enterprise Ultimate Edition, or if you have a corporate edition or anything of that sort, you could avail this Office integration, and you should be able to get started with all these features that I spoke about right away. Questions?
Thanks, Nizam. That was a really great presentation. It was great to see the SysML editor, and it's great to see some of the enhancements to documentation. Just one question on that documentation. You created a report. Now, if someone went in and made a change to some of those diagrams or updated it, can you then synchronize those changes to the report?
Absolutely, a great question. So each of these documents are maintained as sections here as well. So I could just say update the section, and that would be updated. And you could navigate through the document through these. So you could see this is a business use case, there's a component, there's a class, there's a sequence diagram. So pretty much in the order that I added it, the sections are tagged, and I could just say, update a specific section.
Yeah, and I think what's so powerful about that is if people go and make changes to the model, they don't have to then redo the entire report. They simply update it and can always be looking at the most up-to-date information as required. We had a question saying, is the MDG Office integration new or updated? And where can they download it from, because they can't seem to see it on the specialized tab in their version.
Okay, so that's a great question. So the MDG Office integration has always been, it's been there for a while, but it's now the SysML Requirements Editor, for example, is in the latest version. It works very well with EA16. It's also backward compatible, so even the older versions will support it. But a lot of the features like custom templates are specific in EA16. So to download, so you might have to download this from the Sparx Systems website. So if you have an Ultimate license, this you have the license to use it. Else you might just have to avail this as an add-in and use it. But it's this link. I'll share it in the maybe we'll share this as in the email.
Send
in the following
email
after the webinar. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone that attended will send an email with a link to this
Yep.
this page, and you'll note that the changes went live in June of 2022 with the latest changes as well. Yep. There's a question here that says, can I import stereotyped relationships from Excel?
Yes, yes, and we can even import the tagged values. So if you have a few columns that are mapped as tagged values, you could import that as well. So in the connector definition window, you could say the connectors stereotype as well. And
Yep.
if you have additional columns that has to be mapped as this connectors tag, you could do that as well. So this is a slightly advanced use case, so I didn't hop on it, but yes, that's a really good question.
But the good thing is that you can do it, and you can even extend it to tagged values. So that's great.
Right.
There's another question here saying, let's say you go in and you import from Excel into EA, then you make some changes. Can those changes then be synced back to the Excel document?
Okay, that's a good question. So it's we can't sync the model to the same Excel spreadsheet. You have an ability from EA to export to Excel, but it's not like the SysML Requirements Editor where it's two-way sync. So I can export contents to an editor. Like, I could just say I want to choose the a folder and export it where I could get all the applications and tag values, and then let people edit it and import it again, but it can't be synced to the same file that it was imported from. We need to handle these as two different use cases.
Excellent. And there's a couple of questions just about getting access to Enterprise Architect 16, so you can get a free trial of Enterprise Architect 16 from the Sparx Systems website as well. And there's a couple of questions where people wanted to review the demonstration. Lots of people like Kirk and Graham and others have said it's an awesome presentation. They want to view it again. So yes, it'll be made available on the Sparx Systems YouTube site within the next 24 hours. And once we get through some of these Q&A, we'll print it on, publish it on the Sparx Systems website as well. So I'm just conscious of time and want to make sure that we keep things to an hour. I'd like to thank you very much, Nizam, for such a comprehensive presentation. I think it's really great if people do have SysML requirements that are sitting in Excel documents to bring it into EA and to be able to model that. I'm also really excited to see you showcase how some of the new document templates make it so easy. And in a live demonstration, in under 5 minutes, you're able to create a report using requirements and use cases and a number of other elements and generate out a report. So it's really great that that's done within Enterprise Architect 16 and has been enhanced so much. I can see on screen there you've got some information about EA SAS. So would you perhaps be able to say what the EA SAS offering is, Nizam?
Oh, sure. Like, this is just a plug, but this is like, we will be doing a following webinar on EA SAS. So there's been increasing move from on-premise users to a cloud environment, and Enterprise Architect application is now available as a SaaS offering, and that's what this video is just showing. Like, from a web browser, I'll be able to now access Enterprise Architect and do everything that I normally do in an installed application. So this is coming soon as a possible webinar and announcements, but just want to give a heads up that this is available now.
No problems. So we'll send out an email tomorrow with details about how you can download the MDG for Office integration so that you can use it in your tools. Once again, I'd like to thank you, Nizam, for your detailed presentation, and I will make it available on YouTube so people can review some of the content again. I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance. It was great to see such great numbers turn up for the session, and look forward to seeing you in future for some future webinars on Enterprise Architect 16. And we encourage you to have a look at the Sparx Systems YouTube site and our website for hundreds of webinars on different topics that are all available for free for you to have a look at. So thank you. Take care of one another, and great to see you all online, and the great interest and enthusiasm that you have for Enterprise Architect and the Sparx Systems suite of products. So thanks, Nizam.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Appreciate it. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Bye-bye.